Hi, this is Chris Christensen from BloggerBridge, and welcome to this video that will show you how to use the BloggerBridge program for doing speed networking or the one-on-one meetings for the Women in Travel Summit. If you've used BloggerBridge before, it's going to be very similar to how you've seen it previously, and you may not need to do this video. There are two parts to BloggerBridge. BloggerBridge is used to create the meetings between the bloggers and the companies. There are three types of people who are going to the Women in Travel Summit. There are bloggers, and then there are two types of travel professionals. Those who do have a table that they have purchased from Women in Travel, and those who don't. And those who haven't purchased a table will at this conference, and this is a new thing in conferences that are using BloggerBridge, be able to search for other attendees, but they won't be able to schedule a meeting using BloggerBridge. They'll just be able to send a message to somebody and say, hey, can we get together at lunch or something like that. Similarly, bloggers cannot schedule a meeting with other bloggers. They can just send them a message and again, potentially arrange some time for them to get together. But let's look at how this works. We're going to look at this from two different ways. First, we're going to look at it from a blogger. And the reason why we're going to do that is it's useful to understand the different parts of the profile that you want to set up as a blogger. And it's useful for you, those of you who are coming in as companies, to understand those different parts so you know what to search for. So I'm looking at my profile. I'm not actually attending the Women in Travel Summit, but we're going to look at mine because it's going to have some of the stats in there, and I don't want to show the stats for other people's accounts without their permission. So you're going to see a WITS Portland tab. If you go into the regular BloggerBridge, bloggerbridge.com, you'll see that tab if you are signed up. But you want to be doing most of what you're going to be doing for the WITS Summit over here in wits.bloggerbridge.com. So if I click on that, I end up in my schedule. And you can see currently I have no meetings available in my schedule, or my schedule is completely blank. All of those times are available. Now, if I happen to be leaving early, for instance, and I can't do these last two times, I can click on them and make them reserved, and that makes them unavailable for anybody to schedule. So, for instance, if I've already agreed that I'm going to meet with somebody else at 4:54, I can also make that time unavailable. And I can always change my mind and just make those times available. And that's true for both bloggers and companies. And that doesn't schedule all that does is keep anybody from scheduling things at that time. So let's look at your profile first of all. And so here's my profile. I'm going to click on my profile here. And you can see the kind of information I have, where I'm at in terms of where my home base is, my city, my state, my zip code, the country, what my gender is. This is going to be female for most of the people attending, but it isn't for me. What my birth year is and the year I started blogging. I can edit all of those by going down here to the update profile button here, and this will give me a chance to edit things like, here's the information for my bio. What do I want to know? What do I want you to know about me when you look at my profile? And so think about the things that make you different. If there is a special case now, and this is a change recently in BloggerBridge for awards and companies I've worked with, so don't put those in your Blogger account, or sorry, don't put those in your bio because we have a separate space for those now. But you can always leave these blank if you haven't worked with any companies, or if you haven't won any awards, just leave those blanks and that whole section will drop out of your profile. But that's basically what my profile, the main part of my profile, looks like and how to update that. Also down here, you can see you will meet with other companies, you will meet with other users. If you uncheck that, you will disappear from the one-on-one meetings at WITS. Also, if you want to unsubscribe to the newsletter that BloggerBridge will send out after WITS, because BloggerBridge is a 365-day-a-year product, and other people will use it afterwards. You can also unsubscribe to the newsletter, and that's where you can find that. So, but then there's a couple of other things that are not as obvious here. One is my products, and this is the kind of things that I do. And we've got a couple different things in here, like I don't sell links on my site, I do sell banner ads, I write guest articles, those sort of things. You might want to fill that out because that's something that companies can search for. And then similarly down here, I have my social network. So if I go back here to my profile, I can have, these are all the different social media options. And the reason why it delayed there a little bit, you'll notice when I clicked on that, it will be faster the second time I click on it because it looks to see whether any of the numbers there have changed within the last week, or rather it wants to make sure that every time you look at my social networks, all of those numbers have been updated within the last week. And so the first time you click on someone, if you were the first one to click on their social media, that might be a little slow, but it should be faster in the future. And so here you can see how many Facebook page likes I've got for the different Facebook pages I've got. I've got a number of different Twitter accounts, how many followers, how many tweets I've made, all that kind of thing. If I want to add another one, I can just go in here and I create an account. I say I want to create, and then I say an Instagram account, and the name of this is Chris2X, which is my Instagram account. And then I want to use the actual URL that Instagram uses. So the best way to do that is just go here and cut and paste, just to make sure you get it right, because we get a lot of people who think they are putting it in correctly. So if you really always cut and paste in the URLs here, then that's going to work correctly, and then I'd create that, except I've already got that in there, so I won't do that. Again, if I've got something else that's old and I don't want to include it anymore, I can just click the minus and that'll delete it from my list of social media accounts. Similarly, on the blogs, if I have a blog or multiple blogs, so for instance, I have Amateur Traveler, Tourism Marketing Consulting, and This Week in Travel, and Chris2X.com. I've got 4 different blogs in here, and you can as well. You're going to put some information about the blog, sort of like the blog's bio, and then you're going to have tags, and this is going to be very useful in terms of what kind of things do I talk about on that blog. And there's a specific set of lists that are available in terms of tags available for WITS, which is similar to the other travel conferences we've done. So if you've gone in here before and for another travel conference and set up your account, it's probably ready to go. But if you have not, you can always add a new blog here with this button here, which says just what's the name of the blog, do you have a logo you want to update, what's the URL of the blog, and then fill out a description about it. What language is it in? Don't worry about the RSS field right now. What year did you start it? And then there's a special click box here if it's a podcast, and the reason for that is if it's a podcast, you can also put in podcast download stats. Now we put that as self-reported because we don't have any way of pulling those automatically, and so they're not pulled in the same fashion here as these Google Analytics ones are pulled directly from Google Analytics and therefore are being verified. If I want to change for my blog, for instance, and I want to add Google Analytics, then you would not have the unauthorized here. You would have authorized Google Analytics. You'd click on that, you log in your account, you would choose your specific blog from among your Google Analytics accounts, and then it would add in the stats for the last 1 year, I think is what it adds it in for. And we do them monthly. And it would show the month, the page views, the visits, and the time on site in seconds. As a company, when you're looking at someone's time on site, that is something that's useful to see, because if the time on site here is let's say less than a minute, especially if it's in the low, 15 seconds, 10 seconds or whatever, then I would discount a lot of the page views because they're really not getting people to stick on their site. One thing that's a little weird is that the Google Analytics, if I go into my Google Analytics, it will tell me this number is larger. For some reason, their API reports lower numbers. Their application program interface does than their website, and that's just a Google thing. I don't know why it is, but these are going to be the same. Everybody is going to be coming through the API, so yeah, don't worry too much if it's slightly different from what you see on your website, but that is something that you want to add in as your Google Analytics, because that allows the companies to search for people who have a particular amount of traffic. And again, if you do have a podcast, put in your self-reported podcast numbers there. We assume you will be honest. And then in terms of adding your tags, go down here to Edit Tags. And you're going to see a list of things. You are only allowed 20 tags, I think it is right now. And so we'll go in here to my site topics, and I'll click on travel and open that up and say if I also want to blog about consumer issues, I would check that off, or eco travel, or whatever it is that I blog about in here. I can also talk about if I blog specifically about specific places. So for instance, I haven't added in here my California travelmedia.com website, I could do that, for instance, and say that I specifically have that blog, which is about North America, and in fact, that one is about a state in the United States. So that one would be an appropriate place to say, for instance, that I blog just specifically about California in that blog. That's tags. After you click all the ones you want, you just say done at the end, but they're already set by the time you do done. And that is how you put in your blog information. Again, if you need to change something later on, like your password, you can do that here. If you don't know what your password is, just use the forgot password button and we'll do a reset. If you ever have any problems with anything, just click down here on the Contact BloggerBridge and send us some information and we'll get that fixed for you. Add examples of my work. And so in here, in examples of my work, I can say, for instance, these are the best, and in my case, it's going to be the best podcasts I've done, some hotel reviews, some articles. You can make your own categories here. So for instance, I get to choose my own category. It can be whatever category I want. And so if I say that this is gear, for instance, and then this is going to be a jacket review, I'm going to put in a particular URL here, and I don't have a real URL, so I'm not going to put one in. And then a description, and you want to make this pretty short. A sample review of a clothing article. Well, I don't know. Yeah, but this is just for people looking at your profile on BloggerBridge. And so this would be, I want you to see what I do with jacket reviews and those sort of things. So I would paste in that URL. I wouldn't really put in something fake here. But in fact, it won't let me put in something fake. I've forgotten that. I've changed that. So let me look. Jacket, amateur traveler. Let me find a real thing that I did. Here we go. We'll put in a review of Scotty vest here, and there I get a new category which has gear in it. And as soon as I destroy that, if I don't want that particular in there, that whole category goes away. So you get to make your own categories, and then you're just putting in a title, a link, a short description. Hope that makes sense. And that's, again, using the examples of my work. If you need to change your email address, you can't just change your email address to an existing account. If you've got another existing account and you want to use that instead at Women in Travel Summit, then you should have gotten an email that says, hey, welcome to the Women in Travel Summit. This is the email we're using, and if you meant to use an older account, contact me. But if you just sometime later on you want to use a different email, that's fine. Just go in here and change your email address. That is not a problem unless that email is already in use in the system. So that's the one case you can't really do. So now let's go back to here. I fill up my profile. You as a user are going to be able to do a couple different things. One is you can go here and search attendees, and this is very similar to the search that a company is going to get. And so I can say people who are attending the Women in Travel Summit, and I can say specifically I'm looking for other people who are look at business travel, for instance. And I can see that that's going to be a smaller number. In fact, I'm not really going. So there's 2 people who do business travel there. While if I said family friendly, I'm going to guess that's going to be a whole lot more people. If you know someone's email address, you can specifically put it in there if you're looking for someone in particular. If you're looking for somebody who kayaks, I may look for a search in the bio for kayaker. Alexandra is a kayaker, for instance. Or somebody who started, if I'm looking for only people who started in 2009 or before, then I can look here and find the old timers in terms of how long they've been blogging, in terms of their age. I can look for specific genders. I also can here look for a specific blog name, URL, or again, blog description. So I'm looking for somebody who mentions the word California, for instance. And I can find 2 blogs, or I can go in here and say, I'm looking for someone who blogs in Spanish in California. Nobody. And the one thing to be aware of is that every time I change one of those things, it sticks. And so if you ever find yourself in one of these empty searches, you may just need to go back here and click on the attendees again, in which case I've reset everything. So if I just do nothing in there, I can find the list of everybody. The difference between this search and the search that the companies get is the companies will also get some of that private information, like what your page views are or your podcast downloads. Those are not things that we're going to share with people who haven't purchased a company. We're not going to share it with other bloggers. We only share that with people who have reserved a table here at the WITS conference, or for people who have purchased a BloggerBridge subscription for after the WITS conference. But other things like your Alexa number, your domain authority, your social media, all of those things are public information. And again, you can sort by all those. You can say, go in here and sort by, who's got the greatest domain authority. Well, it looks like Jen Mitchell has the greatest domain authority. So domain authority being people who are going to be particularly useful in terms of a link from their blog. It's going to be more valuable than a link from someone else. Or I can search for, I'm just specifically looking for photographers, so maybe I'm going to look for people sorted by Instagram account. So I'm going to find Angie, for instance, has more Instagram followers than anybody else. Or maybe I just want to look for people who are total followers, total social followers here. And so that's going to find where people have different followers and who has the most followers. And Kita, for instance, has more followers right now than anybody else. Now, I think that's still counting Google Plus because I haven't taken it out of this yet. But that's really not something I would worry about because Google Plus is dead. We'll be taking that out, but might not be before WITS. So again, I can search by minimum domain authority. I can search by social media. I want to find everybody who has at least 10,000 Twitter followers. Now, you'll notice that when I find these people as a blogger looking for other bloggers, the only thing I get is an option to message them. That's going to send them an email. We can communicate and say, hey, I see you're going. I see you're also interested in kayaking in California and speak Spanish. Can we get together for lunch or something like that? And that's what that is for. If I was searching for bloggers as a company, I'm also going to see an invite button there, and that's going to give me the ability to send an invitation to them, and we're going to get into invitations in just a minute. Companies, so I can go here and I can find a list of companies as a blogger, and I can go and read more information about a company. BloggerBridge is not actually going to be there, but I'm going to send an invite to this particular company, and it says BloggerBridge is now invited to a meeting with me, and I can go over here to my invitations extended and see that BloggerBridge has received an invitation. Now, if I go over here to a different window as BloggerBridge, I would see I have received an invitation, and this is what the company gets is they get a short little description about you, and they can click into your profile and see more information. But for instance, the company then again does get this confidential information here, what your monthly traffic is, where that blogger does not. And then the company can accept an invitation. And this is a very important step. So pause here, make sure you understand this thing. Whoever accepts the invitation chooses the time. And so we're going to show you a series of schedules. You'll notice that these two slots are not available, and they're not available because as a blogger, I specifically had marked out those times, but sometimes they're going to be unavailable because you're going to have multiple different appointments already. But in this case, there's everything else is available, so I'm going to choose that slot, and now both of us just received an email that said we've got an appointment scheduled at that particular time. If the company schedule it, it's all exactly the same, except that the blogger is accepting it, and so the blogger is scheduling it. I hope that makes sense. Go back here. I think that's all we want to talk about as a blogger. So as a blogger, you're going to get relative to the WITS one-on-one meetings, which is what we're calling these, is you're going to get messages, you're updating your profile, you're looking at your schedule and say, oh, wait, I can't meet with BloggerBridge anyway. I'm going to cancel that one. They're going to get an email. I can look at the other attendees and send them messages. I can look at companies and invite them or send them messages. And I can look at invitations that I have received or invitations that I've extended. So let's go back and look at it here as a company. It's almost exactly the same. A couple things to note that can be a little confusing. If you have never purchased BloggerBridge, all of these buttons up here, except for WITS Portland, are going to be grayed out because they are not features relative to the one-on-one meetings. They are features relative to BloggerBridge as a product for the other 365 days a year, or the other 363 days a year. So don't worry about those. When you want to search for bloggers, you're not using the search button here, you're using the attendees. So if I go down here to attendees, and I'm only going to search for someone specifically, which is me, because I don't want to accidentally show someone's stats, but again, it's going to be exactly the same as the search we saw from the users. The only difference is we're going to see this confidential information here about the monthly traffic information if they have shared their podcast downloads or if they have tied in their Google Analytics in their account. Everything else you see is going to be exactly the same as we saw before, but you'll notice now we've got that invite button. And so I can say, hey, that Chris sure wish he was attending WITS. Let me send an invitation. And so once I've clicked that, it says cancel invitation because that invitation went out. And every time an invitation goes out, an email goes out as well to that blogger saying, hey, I've invited you. So it's exactly the same as we looked before. Again, I've still got my invitations extended over here, except there's a little more information than there was from the blogger side. Invitations received, I haven't received any right now, and then my schedule. And so again, one more time with the scheduling, if I go over here now as the blogger and I refresh, you can see now I've received an invitation from BloggerBridge. Now, before you accept that invitation, I would suggest you go in here and say, hey, who is BloggerBridge about? Well, that sounds cool. And then you go in here and you accept the invitation. And again, because I'm accepting it, I choose the time, and then it shows up on my schedule. That is how BloggerBridge will work for the Women in Travel Summit. I wish I was going to be there, but I will not. I hope you have a wonderful conference. If you have any questions at any time, click down here on the Contact BloggerBridge. Send us some information. When you do it in this fashion, we get to see what page you're on, and that is helpful in terms of figuring out what kind of issue you may be running into.